YouTube, what's going on? So I'm going to be releasing a bunch of All-Stars related videos this week, basically just every day pretty much this week. The first one, we're going to be talking about what previously happened, so the quarterfinals for each group and potentially each division. So let's jump right into it. Some of you, about 30 people actually saw, I did post a video like this like a week and a half ago. So that was pretty funny. If you saw that video, you know. If you didn't, don't worry about it. Anyway, let's start it off. So we have Vanguard Division Group 1 quarterfinals. This was a pretty good group, actually. We had NNW from 388. I showed all of the alliances in these groups. NNW actually had a merge between some of the members of ZZ7 and most of the members from 100 or 110 or whatever 100. So they're actually now a very, very, very strong top contender after the merge. And as you can see here, they ended up getting 3 points. So they promoted. We also have TPI with 2 points, who also was promoted from 311. This was kind of a surprise. I think a lot of people expected BXM to do a little bit better. They did just migrate to State 1. They, sort of had a merge with a couple players, but they also probably lost a couple players. So they ended up only scoring 1 point. And then FW4 had 0 points. So we can see all the rounds here. If I want to dive into it, but this is the most important one, basically. NNW pretty much smoked TPI, who was, the second place. NNW crushed basically everybody in this group without much struggle. And then TPI versus BXM, this was kind of the matchup to watch in this group here, and it wasn't really that close of a match. Over 50,000 point difference, so pretty convincing group here. NNW clearly the strongest, and TPI the second strongest. So let's move on to group number 2. We had KOS promoting with 3 wins. We had YGL's or 120's YGL promoting with only 2 wins, and we'll get into that in a second. 545's TKH with 1 win, and XX8's or 338's XX8 with 0 wins. So this is a very competitive group, actually. A lot of people had YGL and KOS winning, but TKH and the XX8 themselves also have some pretty strong bases, so it wasn't a guaranteed victory. But as we can see here, here's one of the most important matches. So we had YGL versus TKH. This was actually a very close match, less than 13,000. YGL did end up taking the lead there. As we can see, XX8 was pretty convincingly the weakest in this bracket here. We had TKH versus KOS, so just like this. However, you can see that KOS actually won by about 40,000, so a lot more convincing than YGL's victory, which would then lead you to believe that KOS would end up beating YGL, as they did, and TKH beating XX8 by a lot. So this group worked as it should have, basically. KOS being the strongest in the group, at least in the matchups here. YGL being the second, TKH being the third. So YGL actually did end up losing quite a lot of players recently, just due to quitting and selling and what have you. They gained Katie from ZZ7, or Kathy or whatever, Katie. So that's a very, very big base, but they also ended up losing around like four very, very strong bases as well. So they kind of went from being the undisputed favorites to now not, basically, in one off season. KOS, excuse me. KOS also did get some big bases. People bought bases and other people migrated in. So they are probably now considered one of the favorites for sure, especially after beating YGL fairly convincingly. This was, over 50,000 points, over 60,000 points even. So anyway, let's move on to group number 3. Group number 3, we had TW6 from State 13. Nothing really of note here. I think maybe one player sold his base in TW6. One big player, keep in mind. So nothing crazy. 239's AVC, Angel Baby Zoo, with 2 wins and the promotion. 1MV's Metaverse with 1 win. And then 109's RVM with 0 wins. So actually a lot of people had 1MV getting out of this group. I think most people actually had 1MV getting out of the group. We'll see some of the battles down below that ended up happening. But yeah, they didn't. ABC is actually a really good Oblivion team. Basically, they have a very, very strong Oblivion team, both in terms of strategy and strength. But this was, I guess, kind of an upset here, or at least most people had 1MV winning. So you can see here, TW6 beat AVC pretty convincingly, 30,000 points. So clearly the strongest in the group. 1MV ended up beating RVM. RVM clearly the weakest in the group here. This is, not even close, but this is the matchup here. So this is less than 3,000 point differential between AVC and 1MV. So it could have gone. It could have gone the exact other way. If they matched it up 10 more times, would AVC have won 10 times or 6 times, or I'm not sure. Very, very close matchup. So that would have been a very good one to watch. We had AVC just ripping apart RVM, and then TW6 pretty convincingly beating 1MV. So TW6 clearly the strongest, and then between AVC and 1MV, I think it was very, very close. AVC managed to squeak out ahead, so congrats to them for moving on. And then finally, we have Group 4 in the Vanguard division. We have NKC from 518 with 3 points. We have 353's PVO with 2 points, 468's PJW with 1 point, and State 96's ZKE with 0 points. So this one pretty much went how people expected. People expected NKC to win all of them, or win all of their matchups, PVO to also promote, and then so on and so forth. PJW to come in third, and ZKE to come in last. So we can see here NKC just ravaging PJW. Not even close. PVO absolutely ravaging. ZKE not even close. So those were kind of the two, not really fair matchups, I guess. We had, again, NKC just dumpstering ZKE. But here we have PVO versus PJW. PVO, obviously they won by a lot, right? 27,000 points. But if we look here, NKC beat PJW by like 100K. Which would, again, lead us to believe that NKC should be beating PVO. And as we see down here, that is what happened. Not a very close matchup. Almost 40,000 difference, almost double. 40,000 is a lot of points in Oblivion in terms of a difference. It means it's still a match, but it wasn't very close. And here we had PJW versus ZKE. This was very, very, very close. 2,000 point difference. So not that it would have mattered, but ZKE could have gotten third place, I guess. So that's it for the groups. Basically, everything went as expected. The exception is sort of this TPI versus BXM. Again, they did move. They did lose some players. Apparently, BXM has no maxed bases, and TPI has 1 maxed base, which is basically you win in that sense. But other than that, basically everything that people thought ended up happening. People expected YGL to have 3 points and KOS to have 2, but still the same people would have been getting out. And then again, ABC versus 1MV. I would say more people suspected 1MV to be promoting, but there were quite a lot of people who were betting on ABC just due to the history of ABC and basically knowing, they know what they're doing when it comes to Oblivion. People should be taking note of their strategies. All right, so that's Vanguard Division. Let's move on to the Fearless Division. We have a lot of drama in the Fearless Division, or we did a while ago. As you can see here, there are only 3 teams. So we have a bye week here. This is because ZZ7 from State 606, I believe, was disqualified. They basically migrated down to 388, as we saw in NW, but they migrated the Alliance shell. So the Alliance itself was disqualified. However, basically everybody in that Alliance, or at least all the bigs, all the strong people who should be in the All-Stars, merged anyway into NNW or into 100. So it didn't really matter. Those players still played, but the Alliance shell itself was disqualified. So that's why there's only three positions here, which may or may not have had a role to play. So we can see here 670E ended up with 3 points, LNG with 2, and Q36 surprisingly only had 1 win. Surprisingly, maybe for me only, because I'm not in the Fearless division. But we can see LNG beating Q36 pretty convincingly, 26,000 points. Not a huge victory, but definitely a victory. And here we had a buy round. So 670E won the buy round. Not a big deal because they ended up beating LNG by a lot. And they ended up beating Q36 by a lot. So it doesn't really matter. They basically would have won regardless. Q36 also had a bye. Doesn't really matter. LNG also had a bye. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the only fights that actually had any sort of relevance is this Q36 versus LNG battle. LNG winning that. And that's basically it. The LNG versus 670E battle was not close, 40,000. So this one went as as it should have, basically. I do think a lot of people had Q36 though doing a lot better. I'm not really sure what happened there, but maybe people just misjudged. They have been a known guild for a very long time, so kind of surprising to see that one. Anyway, going into Group 2, we have G2K with 3 points. We have TMS with 2 points, 914's Moo with 1 point, and the 900's AZQ with 0 points. Now, AZQ got absolutely dominated by TMS here in this first one, 140-something thousand points. And this is important to note. Points do potentially matter in tiebreaker scenarios. There's not really ever going to be a tiebreaker scenario in these matchups, but potentially there are tiebreakers, and so it kind of is important to just score as many points as you can, or it can be important, potentially the finals. G2K absolutely housing down Moon, 50,000 points. This was a good matchup here. This was kind of the matchup of the group. G2K versus TMS. So G2K ended up winning fairly convincingly, 15,000 points. So not huge. Again, maybe if we did this 10 times, they probably would have won 9 times. But maybe TMS would have won 1. But regardless, doesn't really matter. Moo, the third place, ended up just ripping apart AZQ. They were kind of fodder at this point, or in this group here. And then TMS versus Moo, not very close, 50,000 points. So basically G2K was definitely the strongest in the group. TMS the second strongest. It went as it should have. And I actually think a lot of people had this, expected this to be the outcome here. G2K, I believe, is widely considered now, since ZZ7 migrated and they've been disqualified, migrated to the Vanguard division. G2K is now definitely considered the favorites to just win the whole thing. We'll see. Anyway, in group number 3, we had 925's Cole or Ducto of Korean Ill. I think they also have a chance of potentially, being the grand finalists here. 970's UBB with 2 points. So they'll both get promoted. And then JX1 and I-99 both did not make it. JX1 kind of got 1 win. So we have this just not even close, this not even close, this not even close. But this was a very, very close battle for third place, 4,000 points, and then everything else wasn't close. What you'll notice in some of the groups in the Fearless division and even in the Perseverance division, they're not very equal. Even in the Vanguard division, actually, there's some huge disparity between the groups. Usually there's 2 strong alliances and 2 weak alliances. The semifinal should be much more competitive. So we'll go into group number 4. We see 709's ZNB with 3 points. TKC's The King Comes with 2. 819's F30 with 1, and then 882 9NB with 0 wins. As you can see here, no real close matchups. You can go ahead and look, but nothing was even remotely close to anything here. We have the first place team beating the second place team by quite a lot here, 40,000 plus points. So nothing really of significance in this group. Huge disparity. Basically, the number 1 alliance in this group was clearly much stronger than the rest. So that's it for the Fearless division. Moving on, we have the Perseverance division. The Perseverance division is actually pretty interesting. I think it's one of the more competitives, at least in the quarterfinals, with some of the matchups here. So we actually have 1124's NHO with 2 points, TF0 from 1101 with 2 points, and then we had ROP Rise of the Phoenix with 1, and WHA with 1 win as well. So this was a very, very good group. 1225, I believe, is the youngest state in all of All-Stars. So congrats to them for even making it this far. But unfortunately, this is where their road ends. So this was a really, really good matchup. As we can see, TFO beat WHA by quite a lot here. Pardon me, almost 50,000 points. But we have ROP sneaking in a win against the number one, the strongest apparently, alliance in the group. They ended up winning by over 10,000 points, or by 10,000 points, which is pretty surprising. Or rather, it's surprising that ROP did not advance. So we'll see why in a minute here. We have NHO beating TFO pretty convincingly, almost 20K. But again, all of these battles are so close compared to what we just saw in the Fearless division. ROP ended up losing against WHA by 12,000. WHA didn't make it out of it, by the way. So they ended up beating a team who made it out and losing against a team who didn't make it out. So ROP kind of went through, a whirlwind here. NHO pretty much dumpstered WHA. And then this was a very, very close matchup. This kind of determined who made it out here. This literally was basically a tiebreaker matchup. Winner moves on. And TFO ended up advancing. So I guess it went the way it should have, sort of, maybe. I'm not sure. It was a very, very close battle. I'm sure if this was replayed 10 times, they'd each have 5 wins or something like that. What's surprising is that NHO beat TFO pretty convincingly, almost 20K, and ROP beat NHO by 10K, so you would have expected ROP to have ended up beating TFO, but they lost. Not really sure what happened there. If you know, or you were in the battle, let me know. It'd be kind of interesting to figure out there. So that was group number 4. I don't know why that was the first one, but we'll go back to group number 1 now. We had 1076, get it, with 3 points, 1085's U85 with 2 points, 1079's 79U with 1 point, and 1066 LTI or ITI, not sure, with 0 points. This one wasn't too close, or this group wasn't very close. The strongest was the first place in basically every single matchup here. So you can see none of the matchups were close, honestly, at all. Nothing really to talk about there. The strongest one, the second strongest, also got promoted. So coming into group number 2. Group number 2 is a very interesting group because you'll notice that there are 2 alliances from one state. State 1168 LNY and State 1168 ETO. Now, I don't know if they both merged. I would hope that they would have merged at this point to put all of the strongest players in one alliance. Potentially they did that. I'm not really sure. But one of them ended up getting promoted. One of them did not. And it'd be funny to see the matchup between the 2 of them. So here in the first matchup, we have YYB just destroying ETO, which leads me again to believe that they probably merged everybody into LNY. This was a very close matchup, and it ended up not mattering, but it could have. Both of these 2 moved on. These were the 2 strongest, pretty convincingly the 2 strongest in the group. LNY beat QSH by 6,000 points. So not a convincing battle. Again, if we ran this 10 times, I'm sure QSH would have taken some victories here. Then we had just some destroying here of ETO. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they tried at all. We have LNY, the in-state battle here. Again, not even close. Really, the only matchup here that had any importance was LNY versus QSH, and that was a very good matchup. Next up, we have Group 3. This is the final group actually that we'll be covering of the history. So we have State 1152's K52 being promoted with 3 wins, 10 87's Hug with 2 wins getting promoted. 1175's 75Y with 1 win. 1147 LVY with 0 wins. So this group also wasn't very close at all. Basically, the strongest one, as generally as it should go, the strongest should generally win. We can see here they absolutely destroyed the bottom place team. Like, they didn't even try, basically. Hug destroyed the 3rd place team. This was kind of the other battle that didn't have any effect. And then I think it was this battle right here for first place, first or second place here, and it wasn't even close, 50,000. So clearly the strongest won every single battle. The second strongest also won every battle besides the one against the first. And we already went over group number 4 with ROP. The only surprising, if you looked at basically all the other results, this is really the only like surprising result that we saw here. Everything else, it's like, oh yeah, this person beat this team, this team beat the other team, which means this team should end up beating this team. You know what I mean? That basically happened in every other group except for this one. So I'm not sure what happened there. I'd love to know. That's kind of the story. And perfect timing. That's going to be it for the video, guys. Signing out. All right. I'll do more All-Stars. I'm going to do predictions for the semifinals as well tomorrow. I'll have that video up tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys make the predictions with me. I was pretty close this time. I think I lost out on a couple of them. Well, I know I lost. I was wrong on a few of them. But for the most part, the bets were accurate. All right, guys. Anyway, that's going to be it. If there is drama in any of these, in any of these groups coming up, let me know, and I'll try to report it. All right, guys. Catch you on the next one. Peace.